Good evening and welcome to this edition of Beyond the Politics, a regular examination of the events happening right here in the Quinte region and the people who work so hard behind the scenes to make it all happen. I'm your host, Paul Martin. Joining me, fresh off his victory just a couple of days ago is, and I have to make sure I get the term correct now, Mayor-elect for the City of Belleville, also two-time past mayor and former MP for the Bay of Quinte riding, Neil Ellis. Neil, thank you for joining me tonight.
Well, thank you, Paul. Good evening. And you got that right, Mayor-elect. So.
So let's get right into it. How does it feel? What was it like? And now just a couple of days afterwards, has it fully sunk in that, again, you will be the next mayor of the City of Belleville?
Well, we're running tired. Obviously, it was a long race, and we had a great team, and it was a lot of effort. So the last 2 days, obviously, we've been taking down signs and cleaning up the campaign office, and a lot of meetings have already started. Has it sunk in? I think this afternoon it has, and it's a great feeling. It was a good campaign, and yeah, it's fantastic to be back.
So going back a little bit further then, following the federal election loss, when did you decide to run again? Because, I mean, you've basically done it all.
Yeah. I always planned on coming back. That was in the back of my mind, and I looked at, what was happening in the city, and just a lot of things that my council had solved and went through, and those issues keep coming up. And had a lot of people in the community approach me, obviously, and encourage me. And as the time went by, I had to sit down with Sue and family and have a long conversation. And she said, go for it. You have my support. And the rest is history, I guess, now.
Now, I know you really enjoyed being mayor for those 2 terms, and you walked away on good terms, and you had 6 fulfilling years as MP. Did you miss being mayor? Is there something about being mayor that's special that you cannot experience at the federal level?
And yeah, as mayor, you can get things done and see, not only things being done instantly, but over the course of your term. Federal politics is obviously more policy, which mayor is also, but you're in a big bowl. And partisan politics and party politics, those are things I really don't care for, and you watch Custom Period and you see the mess that is, and but we had a lot of good times. I mean, we got my private members motion through, a lot of funding for the community and housing and the YMCA and things like that, but I was out of town too, and being the parliamentary secretary was 160 days a year, and then back in town you had 3 cities to deal with, so you spread yourself pretty thin. But I did miss being home, and I did miss being the mayor, and that's why I'm back, I guess.
So then, now take us again forward to the feeling. So one of the things about this election was, and different from previous elections, is with it all being electronic, and it was very fast, like the first 10, 15 minutes. This used to be something that took an hour, 2 hours longer, especially if you got back to all paper ballot days. So what was the feeling like, and how nervous was everyone at the Empire on Monday night?
It went quick. Obviously, we knew it was gonna, and we were told, 8:15, refresh your phones and refresh the website, and it would pop up. The turnout was amazing at the Empire. I didn't think we'd have that many people show up. I thought, it would get crowded after if I was successful in the outcome. But it was jammed even before the results came in. Had a lot of candidates that were there also, and some of them were fortunate to win, and some weren't. But it was great. Yeah, it came in quick. There's something said for the old way, because you build up, you're behind, you're ahead, you're behind, and you get all that, and that's how we've all been used to. And you've been following politics for 25 years, and you see the bingo sheets and that. So I think it has its merit, but you mentioned the paper ballot, and I heard so many times at the door, and even calls, we're not going to vote seniors, and even non-seniors. But it was easy to vote by phone. It was easy to vote online. But as soon as you put that one roadblock up, we should be making it easier to vote. So part of my once I realized into it, I said to the seniors, we will bring the paper ballot back if I'm successful. And have all 3 forms: telephone, obviously electronic, internet, and for who wants a paper ballot on election day. The issue there, basically, there was 3 electronic ballot years before this one, and there was only 5,000 people that had voted online prior to that. We had 15,000 vote, a little bit, 40%, which is, fair for municipal. But if we would have had that paper ballot, I know we would have had more people out. Would have been a couple percent of people at least that we lost. It would have been great to get to 44, 45%.
Well, I mean, Belleville had 40, Quinte West just under 30, Prince Edward County had 47.
47.
And they had paper ballots.
Yeah.
So is that something you're firmly committed to and you're trying to get council on? Firmly
committed, and I've spoke to a few councillors about it, and they heard it at the doors also, and they had calls about it. And then, the last day of the election, I had a call from a lady, and she wasn't going to vote, period. And, I said, I'll drive you to the poll. But she says, if I have to touch a computer, I won't do it. And, people, it was secured in that, but, people don't want to put their private information out. And you got a PIN and your birth date, and then people feel uncomfortable about that. So why take it away from them?
So thoughts about the campaign itself. You had, of course, two opponents, current Mayor Mitch Panchuk and businessman Kyle Thompson. How did you feel the race was run, and what was your overwhelming thought about that after, especially when you compared to previous races?
We concentrated on our own more so this time, and as I said, I think at the Empire that night or before, we knocked on pretty much every door in Belleville. In Thurlow, the subdivisions, obviously, rural, we did mailbox drops. We hit every street. We might have missed a door here or there on a street. We knocked on approximately probably 16,000 doors. So that was our main focus, pound, 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 pound. We didn't spend a ton of money on radio ads and things like that at first because we had the ground game going and the momentum, and you could feel the momentum, the signs were going out. Last election I had 550 signs out. This election we had 750 signs out. So we could feel it. And people were happy to see me, and when we didn't do any polling. Polling's too expensive to do. Obviously, $5,000 to do some polling, but we polled on the signs. Kind of, you're getting signs and the positivity at the door, and we looked at what the votes we got before, and we figured that we were going to run, depending on the turnout, between 8,000 and 10,000 votes. We ended up, I think, just over 9,000. And we were worried about turnout, because if it was a low turnout, then if you only have 9,000 people coming out to vote, which it was low at the start, would we get that? And as we watched the last 2 days, and especially the last days, people did get out. I think you were predicting that also yourself, that it would bump up, and it did. But it's a good point you made about the county. What I'd like to do is look at the county, the last election, how close it was to Belleville and the percentage-wise, because it was probably very similar. 7%'s a lot.
It is.
Lot. Yeah.
And certainly 17 when you compare it to Quinte West.
Yeah. Well, I wonder what happened to Quinte West. They didn't do phone. They only did one option, right? So.
We talked about going door to door. Was it different this time even than last? And especially, we're in a different position COVID-wise than we were when the federal election campaign was held. So was there also a different feel when you were talking to people at the door? Were they more open to talking to people at the door?
Yeah, and we got rid of the brand. I mean, obviously I ran under on the Liberal brand, and it was partisan, and obviously with the 4 parties that were running, or 5 we had at the time, I believe. It's like sports teams being, you got your sports team, and you're never, even I'm still a Leaf fan, but you're always going to support them. So you have that at the doors, where we didn't have that at the doors. People were hugging my volunteers, saying, I'm glad he's back. And recognition, obviously, I've been just through an election a year before, and I was well known at the doors, so not a lot of introductions, just thanks for being back. And a lot of people realized, I didn't realize, I thought maybe they'd forget about some of the projects, but the doctor recruitment was a huge one. And that was brought up, hey, you started it, your council started, and things like that. But no, we had our, you're never 100% sure. It was always, a little bit of doubt, are we gonna get there? And when the numbers dropped, it was great.
But during the debates, and speaking of the paper ballot and things that can go on ballots, referendums, the wards. One hot button issue in the last term as well was the wards. Keeping it 2 wards, moving it to 1 ward, expanding to 4 wards. How do you feel about that?
Well, I wrote a letter to the council. I didn't, obviously through their quiz, they had a public information, and I give my opinion on that. I don't think we should have divided the city into wards. It's funny, the mayor of Peterborough, on the way out, she made a motion to abolish her wards. Now, I haven't gone back to call her and ask her why, but I do have a few things why I think that she's doing it. I think wards you end up, there's some pluses to it, but there's a lot of negatives to it. Basically, we should all be working together to make the city better. There's some parts of the city that might need infrastructure that other cities don't. So say I'm a councillor and my ward is East Hill, our parks are all great, everything's good, and you're in Thurlow and you've got no parks and you've got none of that. So I should be working to help you to get that part of the city better. What I see in ward system is as soon as I help you and you get a park and you get that, everybody wants a park. So are you building 8 different parks? Are you building 9 parks? And I'm not saying you see it all the time, but you do see that. And I've talked to people and directors and stuff, and they say that, you know, so your ward is great and you help everything else and you don't bring anything to your ward. Well, the election comes around and said, you know, Paul, you didn't bring a park. You didn't well, we got the best parks. They've all been built. We got all this. Well, you didn't do anything. Well, no, because I've been helping doing this and doing that. So you've got that. What happens if you get a councillor that is not great? You know, you can't get rid of him. You can't fire him for 4 years, or him or her or the person. Is there councillors that don't answer emails? I had them that didn't answer emails. I'm not going to say who they are. We pulled them along, we helped them. But, you know, you're in Ward 1 and your councillor doesn't answer emails and does things like that. You go to the Ward 2 councillor and go, well, your councillor's Ward 1, go see them. Well, they don't answer emails. Well, go see the mayor. The mayor doesn't have any magic wand of punishment to say you're not catching up. And I'm not saying that happens all the time, but, and then there's particular, you might be a friend of so-and-so councillor in Ward 3 and you've always been, well, you're not dealing with councillor 3 anymore, you're dealing with that. I think we all should be working on a collective. You know, Thurlow has different issues. It's more rural and it's different than the city. I can see Thurlow still having the ward system. As it gets more urban, you know, maybe look at it then. But again, how do I say this? They hired somebody and they did a whole movie and they shot it without any council input and they put it out on the website. And I watched it. It was biased. You had to watch the whole thing before you could even put your ballot in. And what did it come out? 70% of people didn't want it? Something like that? Why push something people don't want? You know, it makes no sense. And that's, I think the message is that, you know, hopefully my council that we elected, you know, thanks for supporting and getting a great council it's going to be. We might have some bumps at the first, like we talked about before, but give us a chance. And I think you're going to see a great council and you're going to see a lot of great things happen in the next 4 years. And I appreciate all the support that everybody got during the election, and hopefully that support will continue over the next 4 years.
Well, thank you for spending some of that time with us. This has been Beyond the Politics with Mayor-elect in Belleville, Neil Ellis.